Hey Ravi, thanks for taking the time to do this today.
Thanks, Mujtaba. Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Just to set the context for folks, we were introduced over a year ago now by one of our dear friends, Arpit at Splash Learn. Since then, BrightChamps has grown tremendously. We were very excited to lead your seed round, and now you are, I think, the leading future skills for kids platform in the world, right? Building from India for Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and now the United States. It's been a tremendous journey, and I wanted to talk to you today about that and to start a little unconventionally. So I know your parents recently celebrated their 50th marriage anniversary, which is a huge accomplishment. I'd love to hear about just how you were raised, your upbringing, and how that led you to this world.
Yeah, sure. My childhood has been very unconventional, Mustafa. I come from a tier two town in India, and I hardly went to school. I used to live with my grandfather, and my entire education was sort of taken care by him at home. You can say that, quote unquote, I'm a misfit to the conventional education system, but not that I'm trying to convey that I wanted to become a tech co-founder since the childhood, but yeah, I was sort of rebellious to the conventional education system which existed in the school at that point of time. And I grew up, and when I crossed the higher secondary level, sort of it was told to me that if I don't get into any of the IITs in India, it will be very difficult to pursue a good career. So I participated for IIT exam, and then I got into IIT computer science, and then got into the professional life. But yeah, unlike many other kids out there, my childhood has been mostly with my grandfather, studying different subjects at home.
Yeah, that's awesome, and probably I think why you ended up doing this in particular. And from IIT, I know you worked in a few different sectors. You were involved in the in the housing startup space. How did you end up back in education?
Yeah, that's a very interesting journey. In fact, when I came into the professional life, I started my career, in the technology world. I was mostly, heading engineering, or I was acting like in the role of CTO or CPO at various organizations. My last role before starting BrightChamps was CPTO at housing.com, makan.com, and proptiger.com. Throughout my professional journey, Mustafa, I was sort of one consistent theme was emerging, and that was about many of the folks in the society were reaching out to me saying that, Ravi, if I would have had the knowledge of technology, I would have done better in my life, right? So essentially, a lot of friends who are in very very good profession like lawyers, interior designer, chartered accountant, and many various other fields, they had this feeling that we are living in a world of technology, but because of whatever education exists in the conventional education system, they have been kept completely aloof of technology, and that is why their understanding and insight about technology is very limited, and that has become an impediment for their growth in their professional journey, right? And so that was one piece of consistent insight I was getting. And the second piece was about many of my tech friends in the technology world. They were sort of in various conversations it was coming out that we understand technology, we are earning well in today's time, but they are not very clear in terms of how to deal with money. So and then the theme was very clear that they were talking about, they were hinting about that because of the lack of financial literacy, nobody made them understand the financial system, how they do their work. They are not able to deal with the money properly, and hence they are ending into an inferior outcome. So there was a consistent theme emerging, Mustafa, which is like there are so many important life skills which ideally should have been part of the education system, but they are not there. And as a result, people are not ending up into a better outcome in their life, which ideally they should have if those educations should have been provided or would have been provided in their early age. And that strike me that there is an opportunity, a big opportunity at a global level, to do something, to build a platform which can provide a high quality education around all these important life skills. And that is, I think, is the genesis of starting BrightChamps.
Yeah. And how do you think about, of course, you started with technical skills, computer skills, mathematical thinking. Now you've gone into financial literacy. How do you think about what skills to focus on next?
Yeah. The focus of the company was very clearly around important life skills, which are not part of the conventional, curriculum, but still required to have a superlative outcome in life. And few of the things were no brainer. We are living in a world of technology, and many things are being driven by technology, and it's very important to have the understanding of technology to do better in any kind of profession which you end up pursuing later on in your life, right? So that was but obvious. We actually talked to many of the parents in different countries and try to understand that what do they think about different important life skills, right? And technology was coming out to be one of the most important criteria. The second thing is that we realized that we are living in a society which is a very capitalistic society, and money is important around various important aspects in life, and a basic understanding of how money works, a basic financial literacy is very, very important again. So these two things were very, very clear. And then we realized that there are other important things, which is like communication, how to effectively communicate to people, and how to put your ideas forward, how to how to work in a multicultural setup, how to become part of a global workforce. Those things are also important. So we started talking to people. We stack ranked basis various feedback which we got from the market in different countries, and we started with technology because that came out to be sort of number one as far as the top of mind, you can say, awareness around important life skill in the mind of parent and children is concerned.
Yeah, and these are of course really important areas, and areas that people have been thinking about, for quite some time. In the startup world, people always talk about first mover advantage. BrightChamps, of course, was not the first coding company, not the first financial literacy company, won't be the first communication company, but somehow you're outperforming all of these other companies that have been trying to do this for 5 or even 10 years. In Peter Thiel's book, 0 to 1, he talks about last mover advantage. Could you just talk a little bit about how you designed the platform, how you're thinking about these courses, and what have you done that's making it really effective and really, really grow?
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on a very important point, Mujtaba. I strongly don't believe in first mover advantage, right? I strongly believe that in the concept of last man standing, right? Which is which is and education is such a field wherein it is very, very important that if you serve the needs or requirement of the people in a quality driven way, then there is a long lasting impression, and long lasting sort of situation for the company. So the way I see it, that many of the edtech company which came out there around similar similar sort of offering in the market, I started getting a feel that when I talked to the customer, when I went through the entire experience which most of them were providing, I realized that there is so much of emphasis on acquiring customer. So acquisition engine was given in significant, much more focus, right? While I think that if you focus on delivery, there is a flywheel effect which you can generate in the market, right? So from day one, we said that let's focus. Acquisition is important, but let's focus also significantly. Let's spend significantly much more energy and time in terms of how we are delivering these experiences to the kids, right? If we can create outcome for kids, if we can create a feeling wherein then they get to their parents and they themselves understand that there is a clear benefit of having such things, I think the market ultimately rewards such kind of platforms, and there is a ripple effect of that particular outcome. So we focus more on delivery rather than acquisition, unlike many others out there. And that is why, and the approach was taken because we didn't want to become instant success, for initial period. We wanted to have a long lasting, sort of impression. And that is why, it was a deliberate call for us to focus more on delivery, right? Which can create ripple effect in terms of, creating that flywheel effect.
Yeah, and product and outcomes are so important at GSV. I'm sure you've heard we have this phrase that we repeat all the time called return on education, ROE. Would love to hear about in your conversations with students, with parents. What have you heard? What are some anecdotes of the results that you've been able to produce?
Yeah. So I think there were, when I talk to the parents and the students, one thing is what you realize that many of them um, are cautious about such things, but they are not really clear about what my child will ultimately gain as a result of such courses. So tangible outcome was very, very important in their mind. And second thing was, how does it connect in the long career building story, right? So most of the parents were trying to connect the dots, wherein they were saying that in isolation this looks meaningful, but how do I connect these dots so that this particular outcome can get connected with the other thing which the child will do subsequently, and that get connected further, so that there is a overall meaningful outcome in his journey, in education, or also in the professional part, right? So that's one thing. So there was a lot of confusion around that. And second piece which was coming very, very clearly, wherein they wanted to understand that what's the right time to do such things, right? So there was a lot of confusion around timing, right? And when we designed the courses, when we designed the entire content, basis these two parameters, right? And we tried to serve these two confusions which they had in their mind. I think it created a better product market fit, right? So overall, if you ask me at a very high level, what are the two things? These were the two most important things which were going in the head of customers.
Yeah, and how much do you have to think about localization for the customers, right? Because you're a very global company, customers in I think dozens of countries at this point. How does that affect how you think about the product?
So the way I see is that our setup is such that most of the experience, most of the portions of the journey of the student, most of the portion of the funnel is automated using technology, right? And hence we have certain unfair advantage in terms of launching to a new country in a much more lightweight fashion compared to the situation wherein if it would have been significantly manual or people led, right? So coming to the point of what do I customize? So of course we focus on customizing the content and customizing some of the communications to the customer as per the local country requirement, right? But more or less we have developed over a period of time in an engine which we internally call Talos, Oxo, and Cora, right? Which are the three important components of the entire experience. And we have built that particular thing in such a way that tweaks here and there make it ready for a particular country, right? So there are two aspects. One is the technology platform, certain tweaking there, and we also focus in terms of localizing the content as per the vernacular needs, and also the cultural needs of that country, right? So these are the only three things required when we launch to a country.
Yeah. I think one of the most impressive things about BrightChamps is the global teacher base and the culture around the teachers. I was very impressed when we sat down with Pratik in Bangalore, and he talked about I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think the academy, right? It's not called what other startups call it, teacher ops or tutor ops or something like that. It's very the culture and the structure is quite different, and you have teachers in several different countries. Would love to just hear about how you've structured that, how you've built the culture.
Yeah, that's very, very important aspect. I think there is a reason why, company like ours is called EdTech, right? We are first an education company driven by technology, right? And that is why EdTech. I personally feel that, it was a very deliberate call from day one that, how we are going to treat our teachers, right? And when I say so, many of the setups, both in education and outside education vertical, I have found that, they have been treated as a contractual staff, just doing the delivery part for certain hours, and not much more beyond that, right?
They're
While we
treated
thought
like
that,
gig workers, like food delivery people or rideshare drivers.
yeah, exactly. But I think that there is a fundamental difference between that kind of, service delivery versus a teaching experience delivery, right? And when you think deeply about a classroom experience, you can imagine that, there can be a teacher who is very knowledgeable, but if the teacher is not fundamentally excited to deliver a high quality experience in the class, all that knowledge can be washed out, right? Because the experience is not being provided with a lot of passion, excitement, and, energy, right? So we realized that, and we said that, rather than building a teacher ops, as you called it, right, we thought that, let's build a community of highly motivated, sort of faculty members, right? And there should be a ecosystem where then they naturally fit into, and they feel that, they are first class citizen of that particular, community, right? And that community, we call it academy inside, right? And since day one, we have been passing this, message to all the people who are joining, in our mission, that, we are here to build the biggest online university which ever existed over internet, right? So the feeling of being treated as a faculty member, and the feeling of community between the teachers is very important, and these are the two very distinguishing, sort of aspect, where we feel that, we are significantly different, from many other, setups out there.
Yeah. I think the main difference really, right, is your culture, is your product, and is the outcomes, sort of the three of them together. The price is also, quite disruptive in global markets. How are you thinking about where you want to go in terms of the product development, right? You're obviously a tech-enabled product and a live-first product. There's a lot of sort of asynchronous tools out there. What are your thoughts on building out a full platform? What do you want to add?
Yeah. Very important, aspect you have touched on, Mustafa. The way I see the product development, or the roadmap of, different products which we are developing at BrightChamps, it's at a very high level. It is very closely tied with the pain points of the customer, right? So basically, what we do is that, we identify different personas, in the parent community or the student community, and then we try to understand that what are the pressing, what are the most important, pain points which there is a scope to serve or solve, right, using a product intervention, right? So, like, for example, some of the parents are very competitive in nature, right? Can we create a platform wherein, we can serve that particular, thing? There is a pain point wherein the parents and the students feel that, the schools are you know uh, are a very local sort of setup. You can only get the experience of local citizens in a school setup, right? So a platform like ours, presents an opportunity to provide a solution or provide an experience wherein people can get a global exposure, right? So the approach is very simple, that we identify, we divide the, target user segment into different personas. Attaching one persona, if we find that there is a very significant pain point which can be addressed, we build a product around it. Right now we are working on very interesting, product lines, across country, right? Some of them are, distribution driven, the products which are there to solve, or scale, the acquisition piece. There are some of those products which are there to cater to a specific needs or pain points of the customers, right? but it's a very exciting opportunity. EdTech is, the K-12 segment is a segment wherein you have two type of user you are dealing with, right? The parents and the students or the children, right? And that is why, because there are two types of users involved, you have significantly larger amount of opportunity, right? To build product around, so that you can deliver a very high quality experience to either of them, right? So we are developing our products, prioritizing the pain points of the customer.
Yeah, and the penultimate topic I wanted to touch on was just how you run BrightChamps, right? You have a very global team. You have folks in many cities, many countries, built all remote, I think, in the last 2 years, less than 2 years. And any reflections on that? Any tips for other founders building remote first companies, global remote first companies?
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing. We got birth during the peak of the pandemic, right? And we had no option than to figure out a solution which can scale fast and well in a remote sort of working situation. But I would like to share two things. Maybe I was lucky here to have initial few folks who built a team, who built a culture in the company which was significantly passion driven, biased for action, and with a significantly high level of ownership, right? But then one thing we realized that if you have to scale fast in that kind of culture, there also you have a significant amount of opportunity to use technology to drive the behavior and culture of the company, right? So essentially what we did is that I keep on calling that our headquarters is no specific city, but it's actually Slack, right? We are headquartered on Slack. And we realized that all the celebrations, all the feedbacks, all the interactions, whatever is possible, which ideally we would have done in a office setup, if you would have worked in a office under a roof, we try to figure out those opportunity, and we try to codify that using technology, and created a virtual sort of you can say simulation in situation wherein people felt that even though I'm working remotely, but the amount of interaction, the amount of recognition, rewards, the amount of discussions which ideally would have happened in a conventional setup, they are not significantly reduced, right? So people felt connected, people felt that we belong, right? And because it was technology led, it actually helped us scale very fast without breaking the system, right? So one learning I have as a founder, and as you said that what message I would like to give to the other founder friends, right? I think there is a significant amount of opportunity in terms of using technology in while building the culture of the company also, right? And we have done it, and you can see our ratings on Glassdoor. We are probably topping the chart as far as the tech companies are concerned, right? We are able to do it, and we were always nervous that we have not met each other, we have not met each other, and we have not interacted with people face to face. Will that lead to a very sort of strange culture? But we are able to manage that, and we are able to significantly create a positive environment because we use technology in terms of scaling the culture and scaling the organization.
Yeah, and my last question to end would just be, would love to hear about where BrightChamps will be in 5-10 years.
Yeah, that's a very close to heart question you have asked, Mujtaba, right? I keep on dreaming about it, right? And I think if we can build a platform which is known or which is considered synonym to high quality education around all the important life skills in the segment which we are operating at a global level, we will get a sense that we have achieved part of vision which we had started the company with, right? So I definitely look forward that BrightChamps should be known globally as a platform synonym to high quality education around important life skills for kids.
Awesome. I look forward to that happening, and we'll be along for the journey.
Thank you very much, Mujtaba.
Thanks, Ravi. Thanks for taking the time today.
Thanks a lot. It was nice talking to you.
Likewise.